I am Victoria, a 31-year-old entrepreneur who founded my own app development company at the age of 25. Despite it being a small venture, I'm passionate about running it. Previously, I worked in the IT field for a company that faced management issues, prompting me to take the leap and resign. From there, I started my smartphone game development company. Interestingly, my husband, Luke, is a former colleague and classmate from that previous company. While I invited a few people to join my new business, Luke chose to stay with our former employer. When I announced my decision to start my own venture, he was quite opposed to the idea. Unlike me, Luke is not fond of taking risks or trying new things. He values stability above all else and is content with a day-to-day routine, devoid of ambition or desire for material possessions. In contrast, I thrive on challenges and aspire to be successful in my work. I enjoy shopping and attending live shows of my favorite artists. On the surface, we may seem like opposites and an unlikely match, but I believe we complement each other well. Our differences create a good chemistry between us. We started as an office romance and got married 2 years ago. 6 months ago, we bought our dream house, making no compromises on its design and features. Our home exudes a cozy ambience with a base color of white, and we eagerly prepared a room for our future child, as both of us share a strong desire to have children. Our house has a wonderful aroma of wood, and we take meticulous care in keeping it clean. Since we moved into our new home, Luke has been expressing his wish to have a child soon. He tells me that if I keep working, I might be left behind, as he sees many people on social media starting families. Despite our differing approaches to life, we cherish each other and look forward to building a future together. We believe that our love and understanding will guide us through any challenges that lie ahead. You know that, don't you, Victoria? My parents are rushing me to have kids as well. Why don't you save your work for a while? This was my biggest fear. Luke's income has decreased significantly. Many people left the company for that reason. And now, there are only 3 employees, including Luke. And the vacation is called remote work. This month, he only went to work a few times. Before I knew it, his salary was reduced to an hourly rate, like a part-time job. We bought a house with a mortgage, and we can hardly live on my husband's income alone. But the issue of income is a sensitive one, so there was no way I could tell him directly. So I kept my mouth shut. Luke also noticed that his income was decreasing, but he turned away from his new job. I responded, choosing my words carefully. I guess so, but I still want to focus on my work. I want to save more money. If I have a child, of course, I want to think about the child first. I don't have anyone I can trust completely when I'm out of the office. So, I'm sorry. Please wait a little longer. I'll think about it. Luke looks unhappy. You know, my mother is always asking to see her grandchildren. I'm sorry, but you've got to think about my dignity, too, you know. I've told my mother that Victoria is unable to have children, but she's too picky. She won't be convinced if I don't say so. I knew that too. Every time my mother-in-law looked at me, she would say, "Are you not ready yet, Victoria? Work is good, but you have to have a child before you can be a full-fledged man, you know? No matter how good you are at your job, a woman who cannot produce offsprings is half a man. Be a full-fledged woman soon." There is no way I can agree with such an opinion, but my mother-in-law is a stubborn and rigid woman. I could not expect Luke, who is a mother's son, to take my side, even if I gave him my opinion. I was tired from work, so I tried to avoid seeing her as much as possible. Whenever we met, she would talk about our children. She probably doesn't know about my husband's income. I don't think she could ever think of having children if she saw our current financial situation. One Sunday, I was relaxing, trying to spend the holiday with my husband. When the chime rang, my mother-in-law was there through the monitor. I really wanted to use the answering machine, but it was not possible because we had a car. My husband opened the door, and as soon as he opened it, she turned to me and said, in a sarcastic tone, "You've embarrassed me, Victoria." Naturally, I had no idea what she was talking about. I had just bumped into a friend of mine from school. She told me that she has 3 grandchildren. He is younger than Luke. She bragged about her grandchildren. I never thought I would be subjected to such humiliations at my age. Having a wife who is a piece of shit. I must be miserable like this. She turns her anger toward me. Don't you feel sorry for Luke too? You are not going to be young forever. So you need to plan your future properly. You talk about work and work and work, but you are just making games. Anyone can do that. Not just you. Ignorant people are the scariest. They don't know anything about other people's hard work, but they are the ones who are taken advantage of. As you can imagine. I couldn't stay silent either. With all due respect, I think you should be aware of your ignorance. I understand that you want to see your grandchildren, and I'm sorry for you felt sad, but I can't keep quiet about my job. It is not a job that just anyone can do. It is unpleasant to hear people talk like that about a game that our employees work hard every day to make. When I said that, my mother-in-law laughed snidely. What are you trying to be so cool about? Is that your game more important? Or your child? Which is it? If the nerdy games is still important to you, it makes sense. It's such a ridiculous story, isn't it? I had been avoiding this because I didn't want to get in trouble. And now, I am getting revenge. It makes my head hurt. What is it? Which is more important? That job or me? Such nonsense. It's ridiculous to compare such things. And they are completely different victors, aren't they? I understand what you're trying to say. But from this point on, it's a married couple story. Please let us come to a conclusion together. I thought my words were a little too strong, but I couldn't stay silent any longer. Luke never defended me and kept silent. Then, my mother-in-law, her face bright red, sniffles and comes at me. You must feel bad for me, right? Luke is too kind to say anything. Don't you think it would be worse if he worked harder than you? I get it. I feel sorry for Luke. I'll live here too. You're building a nursery, even though you can't even have a child. If you don't want to have kids, don't you have that extra room? You are infertile, and we will have plenty of room in a 4-bedroom. I'll move in with you. I was gasping at what she was going to say this time when Tawny opened his mouth. It's true. There's plenty of room, isn't it? I don't want to have kids, so it will be more efficient for me to live with my mother. Victoria is careless. It's good to have someone at home for security. I agree. I was surprised by his statement. I know Luke is a mom's boy, but I didn't think he would go so far out of control without asking my opinion. I was angry too, so I sarcastically said to Luke, "Luke, you are at home because of the remote work. I think the security is perfect. If I needed security, I would have hired a professional company to do it. I don't have anything expensive enough to need security." What kind of house are you talking about, Luke? He looked annoyed and turned on me. Can't you see? That kind of attitude discourages me. Victoria's success in becoming independent was just a fluke, wasn't it? Even if I had started my own business at that time, I would have been successful. I would have made a lot of money. The heat in my body quickly cooled down. To tell you the truth, Luke, you can't do it. You've had so many chances to give up on this company. You can't even make your own decisions. It's not that easy to run a company if you can't make a decision on your own. Employees won't follow a boss who doesn't do his job. Luke looks just like his mother-in-law. And gets angry at me. You are really an arrogant and not very pretty woman. If she can't even have children, she's a failure as a person. Do you understand? Life has to be passed on to the next generation in a relay system. So if you can't have more than 2 children for me and Victoria, it will lead to a decrease in the population. My mom is right. If you can't listen to her, who is a senior in your life, then you're not worth talking to. You're polishing your arrogance too much. You should live with my mother and let her teach you about that. No one else is going to teach you anything. You need to have your morals drilled into you as a human being. He is saying this in a very righteous way. But I never said I didn't want children in the first place. I just didn't want to have children because there is no way I can live on Luke's earnings alone. In order to protect my mother-in-law's reputation, I've kept quiet about it. But I'm going to reveal it. Please, look at this. Can you say that my arrogance is the reason why we don't have children? With that, I produced a household account book, and my husband's. In my pay stubs, my mother-in-law stared at it with a mousy expression, and Luke looked impatient. I knew it would be tough for him to show this to her, because his salary is only as much as a student's part-time job. With this amount of money, he would have to pay the mortgage and be the mainstay of the family. It is impossible. I open my mouth. As you can see, our family's financial situation is made up of 2 people working. I can't think about my children just yet because I don't want them to be miserable or poor. If I want to continue my marriage with Luke, I have to give up now. Then, Luke says with an impatient look on his face, I didn't ask you to show Mom your paycheck. Do you really enjoy making me look bad? Then his mother said, a man's income is not everything, you know. Luke's mild-mannered personality makes him a good father. Why don't you be the mainstay of the family? I'm going to fall over. No, no, no. When he's at home, he only reads comic books and plays phone games. If Luke was a housemate, that would make sense. And you know, the women are the only ones who can have children, right? If I take a leave of absence for 6 months, this house will go bankrupt. They are speechless when I said that. My mother-in-law is puckering her mouth like a goldfish. I continue. I think it would be more fun to have kids. And I would grow up, but a man is only a man if he has the financial resources to support his family. I think that's a perfect score if we both earn good money, but I don't agree with your way of thinking. Donnie was furious and starts yelling at me. Victoria's spirituality is ruining me. I have a boss all the way home. Get out of my house. I don't even want to see your face anymore. My mother-in-law is biting at me too. That's right. Who do you think you are to say what you want to say? Fine. I'm going to get the divorce papers. Dunny, divorce this piece of shit wife of yours. With that, the 2 went to the city office together. Why I have to leave is a mystery. But I don't want to be with Dunny anymore. I don't even want to see his face. That's my line. I'm running out of patience too. I'm finally ready to leave home. I'm going to take this opportunity to pack my things. I don't like to have a lot of stuff to begin with. Basically, I don't want to have anything in my room. I am what is commonly known as a minimalist. Packing was over in no time. My mother-in-law and Donnie are in an angry mood and are filling out the divorce papers as soon as they came home. Donnie slapped me with it. I've already filled it out. It's now or never if you want to hold me back. No matter how much you apologize, if you file for divorce, you'll never get it back. I am not going to be able to go to work tomorrow because of the mental anguish you've caused me. So, give me this house instead of alimony. You make a lot of money, so I'm sure you can afford it. Well, if you apologize, I'll forgive you. He wants me to hold off. I have never met such a small man. He is number 1 in my generation. I will fill out the divorce papers without hesitation. After a while, the divorce was successfully finalized. I often hear that divorce is more difficult than marriage. But it was easier than I had expected, and it was refreshing. I would like to praise myself for living in such a miserable way. For the time being, I decided to stay at the office. All the employees knew that the president would do this someday. They are laughing at me. But here comes my payback. I am not a good-natured person who would pay the mortgage on a house that belongs to someone I hate. There's no reason for me to pay alimony to Luke in the first place. That's right, the house is in my name. Of course, I couldn't get the loan with Luke's salary. After all, I put the house in my name. Therefore, I am the owner. I don't need this house anymore. And I asked my lawyer to join the case to avoid any trouble later on. The common property of the couple will be split 50-50. Of course, the house will be sold. It is still in a period of time when it can be called a new house. I was very happy that it sold for the asking price right away, and for some reason, without any evidence, they thought they could continue to live in the house. It seems that my mother-in-law finally learned the truth about the house being in my name only after the divorce. Luke had lied about his income, so it's understandable why she thought that way. When they discovered the house was sold, they were shocked. My mother-in-law called me, accusing me of causing them trouble and demanding that I stop the sale and get back together with Luke. I stood firm and refused to give in to her demands. I knew I was already a stranger in their lives. She threatened to come to my office and tarnish my reputation, but I didn't let it affect me and ended the call. I promptly reported the situation to the company's lawyer, providing voice recordings of the divorce discussions as evidence. The lawyer assured me that this would be enough material to claim alimony. My habit of recording conversations due to my job proved to be beneficial in this situation. However, what concerns me now is the financial situation of my mother-in-law, Luke, and their lack of stable employment. They lost their house, and Luke's former company went bankrupt, leaving him unemployed. Their search for a well-paying job hasn't been successful, and without a stable career or savings, their situation became dire. Luke ended up working part-time jobs just to get by. The lawyer I hired was surprised when they presented their fees all at once, and I can't stay at the office indefinitely, I need a place to rest. Feeling uneasy at home lately, I made a bold decision and purchased a condominium near my office. Since I live alone, security was a priority. My experience with the divorce inspired me to create a lab simulation game for adults, which unexpectedly became a huge hit and now serves as the company's flagship game. Despite all the challenges, I still love my job and remain focused on my career.